is not the best for wind energy. Further north, and I'm sure some of you have probably seen that, it's really, see windmills everywhere. But this part of Iowa is not particularly good for wind turbines. What now?
Our president calls them windmills, and they're wind turbines.
I see windmills. All right.
And I don't know.
Wind turbines. Thank you for correcting me on that. So with that in mind, that we are not good for wind, solar comes to mind when we think of renewables. So solar installation and use and the jobs that come with it are increasing at a rapid rate in our state and around the country. With that in mind, we have brought together a group of experts here, knowledgeable in the field of solar, to enlighten us on solar and what is feasible in our area. First, we're going to hear from each of the panelists individually. They're going to speak for approximately 10, 12 minutes, and then we're going to open it up to the group for questions. So we're hoping to have a lively discussion. So our first speaker here to my left is Carrie Keller from Landmark Solar in Muscatine.
Landmark Solar. I am a lifelong resident of the Muscatine area and enjoy being here and being along the Mississippi. A little bit about Landmark Solar. We are a division of Landmark Irrigation. Landmark Irrigation is a 30-year-old company based out of Taylor, Missouri. In 2012, they were approached to open an irrigation facility here in Muscatine, and they purchased the Green Thumb property, remodeled it, and opened there in 2013 as Landmark Irrigation. I joined them in 2016 as a salesperson, and primarily was irrigation for the big, large pivot irrigation, but we decided we needed more things to do to keep us busy. So we started investigating solar in the fall of 16. In the summer of 17, we built our first 10K array at our facility down on Highway 61. We liked the 10K, or we was limited to 10K originally because Muscatine Power and Water would only allow a 10K for net metering. Shortly after we got ours going, Paul come back to us and said, they'll now allow 50 kW, or up to 100% of your usage. So we determined that our usage is going to be about a 30K system. So last year in March, we built our second array, and then in June, we put up our third array. Just a little history on the arrays that we do have. All right, yeah. The chart over here on the left, we have a solar edge system that charts for us our production every month. So as you can see in the red lines are our 17 production, and that was our first 10K through the end of 17 and up through February of 18 where the blue lines are at. In March we added a 20K, and then in June we added the third array for 30K. So the blue marks last year's production, the green is our current production. So currently for March, we're over where we was at a year ago, but we got a little bit bigger system. This chart over here is actually from the power and water bill we get every month. February of 18, we were buying power. March of 18, we bought a little bit of power, but in April of last year through July, we produced 100% of our power for our facility and for our irrigation rig that we irrigate 40 acres with. There in July and August, we did buy a little bit of power because I did not have my full 30K set up back here, so I was not able to net meter enough. We anticipate this summer maybe buying a little bit of power in August and maybe a little bit in September for using all of our net metering production. After September, then the irrigation quit. We went back to just running power through our office. Again, with the lines that go down, the excess power we were generating in our facility. And then we just trued up our account. Power and Water trues it up in February We just trued up our account, and they bought 1,000 kilowatts of power from us at the end of the year. And now we started off with a new net metering program for this year. It would be 30,000 kilowatt of DC power is what a 30K means. So.
Compared to what? I mean, like what would that do?
Well, each of those panels produce, those panels are all 360 watt panels. So that panel's 360 watt, or will produce up to 360 watt of DC power. As you add them together, you just keep adding, like 10 panels would be 3,600. And so it's just the way you size the system, and then they produce the kilowatts from there.
Can I add to that a little bit? Just a typical home that we average, or that we assume will use about 3 kW. So that would be about the size of a traditional home, I think. And yours is 30.
Yeah, 10K would power. Is that what you said at home?
Well, it depends.
10K is about the average residential size.
Okay, so yeah, we have anywhere from 2K, I think we have a system that small, up to you're going on 14K. So.
I'd like to interrupt it. When they say 3K or 10K, they're talking about kilowatts. So a 3K system is a 3,000 watt system. And for you people who are old enough to remember 100 watt light bulbs, well, a 3,000 watt system would run 30 of your 100 watt light bulbs, to put that in perspective. And they produce, your solar panels produce so many kilowatts of power. It's a 30 kilowatt, 30,000 watt system, which if it runs an hour, then it runs the 30 kW system will produce 30 kilowatt hours, which is what your electric bill is based on, is how many kilowatt hours. A 100 watt light bulb running for 10 hours would take 1 kilowatt hour.
Thank you.
And I just throw that in there because I know a lot of people.
I guess a little bit on what I threw up this graph for. With Clean Air Muscatine, I think the biggest thing to look at is our 30K system has saved 99,000 pounds of CO2 emissions being produced, the equivalent of 2,500 trees planted. What my boss really likes is we've saved $6,200 since July of 17. So we put $6,200 back in our pocket against the cost of the system versus giving it to the utility. SunPower, in 2018, Landmark became an authorized dealer for SunPower panels. SunPower panels are the only panel today that has been relieved of any tariffs on the panels at this point. Some of our panels are produced in Portland, Washington, some are in Mexico. I can't say that SunPower is a truly American-made panel because they still use outside components, but it's the closest thing to an American-made panel available on the market. With SunPower, we've got the ability, we've got the people behind us, so we can do large-scale utility projects, we can do carports, rooftop projects, residential projects. So anything from the 2K that Paul was talking about up to the 2 meg systems, we've got the ability to put those together. Just briefly on the SunPower warranty, it comes with a 25-year warranty. Our panels are warranted for production over a 25-year period. I'm just going to flip through a few of our installations that we've done since July of 17. The top one up here is actually in Muscatine, out of Mulberry. This is a homemade carport down here. Some people over by, I think it was Peoria, built the carport and put some panels on it. This is a system in Bath, Illinois. It actually has an LG battery, so he's got a battery backup system on that. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. I'm just going to flip through them. But from garages to farm shops, to the residential, to the hobby shops, whatever, Solar's available, and it can be put just about anywhere that the sun shines. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the CLAM, Air Muscatine, thank the League of Women Voters for inviting me out. I'll have business cards after the fact, and if you want to stop, visit with me after the fact, I can get my information to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And our next speaker is Len Schaefer, and he's a homeowner and has quite a bit of experience with solar on his own home. So he's going to talk to us about his experience with solar.
Okay, as she said, I'm Len Schaefer, and in 2017, we moved from Sedalia, Missouri, up here to Wilton, which our older daughter lives nearby. And in 2010, I had a 5,000 watt or 5 kilowatt, 5 kW system put on my house in Sedalia. And I kept detailed records of that because I wanted to know what I was getting. Basically, I generated 7,200 kilowatt hours a year for every year for the 7 years that I owned the system, and calculated how much I was saving off of my electric bill. Based on the electric bill, I was getting a 5% return on my investment, which of course was tax-free, equivalent of 7% return, because I didn't have to pay taxes. There was no income. It was avoided expense. I was pretty pleased with that at the time. When we put our system, we had a house built in Wilton in 2017, and we put a 7 kilowatt system. I had 5 in Sedalia, put a 7 kilowatt system on the new house because it was all electric, and we also drive an electric car, so I wanted a little bit bigger system. And the cost of the 7 kilowatt system was 60% of what the 5 kilowatt system had cost 7 years earlier. The price has dropped dramatically, and these guys, I'm sure, would be glad to talk to you about that. I don't work for any solar company. I don't install, and I don't sell for it. So, at any rate, so you can, I think you can trust what I tell you. At any rate, I thought it was interesting how these things can take off with just a little bit of publicity. When the installer, before the installer came to my house in 2010 to install, I said, you ought to contact our local paper. Sedalia is about the size of Muscatine, there's about 20,000 people, and they had a daily paper. And I said, you should contact the local paper. They like to do articles on items of interest like this. And when the guy came, I asked him if he had done that, and he said no. And I thought, well, too bad for you. You could have a bit of free publicity here. So at any rate, later that day, they were there for 3 days, and later that first day that they were there, I happened to be in town running some errands, and I was close to the newspaper office, so I just stopped in, and I said, hey, I got a story for you if you want to run it. And they said, what is it? And I told them, and they said, yeah. And I sent a reporter and a photographer out, and the next day it was front page. And the bottom line is that within a few months, 4 companies and small businesses in the area had installed solar panels on their home, and it grew from, or not their home, their businesses, and it grew from there to where probably a year and a half or so later, I was talking to an installer from, not the company that did my house, but another one, and he said, there's more solar going on in businesses in Sedalia than there is in all of Kansas City, which is like, I don't know, 600,000 or something. Well, at any rate, I don't know how much I had to do with that, but I'm pretty sure I had something to do with that. So, all of that was going on. We had our system. I thought it was working great. I got this brainstorm one day, which my wife was not pleased with, that I should lead an effort with our church to put a 10 kilowatt system on the church. And I proposed it to the church and expected to be like invited not to come back anymore. Instead, we had, I think there was like one couple that did not give. It was like 99% participation, or more than that. And we got our system for the church, and then sometime within the next year, another church contacted our pastor, who sent me over to talk to them. And another church put a 12 kilowatt system on their building. And bottom line is, there are a lot of solar panels in Sedalia, Missouri. I would, like to see that sort of thing happen here. When I went to the newspaper and the reporter came out in 2010, I told the guy, I said, don't you dare put anything about climate change in this article. I said, it's just an irritant to people, and I said, I just want you to show what's going on here, and don't talk about it, because people say, whatever. Well, tonight, obviously things have changed. We have an administration that is not in favor of any of this stuff. They like fossil fuels. I will leave you with a couple of thoughts. All of the climate change deniers none of them have ever denied that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It is, period. It retains heat. So, how on earth are we going to dig out millions of tons of carbon-containing material every year, burn it, dump all that CO2 in the atmosphere without expecting something to change? I just read today that the United States CO2 output in 2018 was 3.1% higher than it was in 2017. The world's output was 2.1% higher. We're not getting anywhere. We're making progress, but we're not going fast enough. So, think of this. If not me, who? If not now, when?
Thank you. And our next speaker is going to be Julian Vanderveld, who's from Moxie Solar out of the Quad Cities. So, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, well, we try not to come across too salesy. I am in sales with Moxie Solar, so I want to thank you guys for having us out here to talk, first of all. So who is Moxie, who am I? Some of you who follow Little League Baseball may recall me as the kid from the Little League World Series back in the year 2000. That's what most people still remember me as. I also played a little bit of football later on. Carrie. And I've come back to my roots to really kind of help grow this solar movement that's happening. Companies like Moxie, companies like Landmark, just trying to kind of build this industry here. It's the fastest growing tech industry in the world. I chose Moxie kind of because of who they are. Moxie's been around for 11 years, started in 2008 up in North Liberty, Iowa. Since that time, we've done over 1,000 installations, won over 140 awards, won the Better Business Bureau Torch Award for Ethics last year, which is pretty cool for us. The quality of the company is really what drew me to it. And for the 11-year life, we've had exclusively 5-star reviews from our customers. So how do you maintain that kind of quality and customer satisfaction is really through education. The first step when I go into a house is that I'm going to educate the customer about what solar is, what it does, and how it can work for them. Because we really feel like an educated consumer is the best consumer. So what I've been asked to speak about today specifically is the tax credits, the subsidies that go into solar that make it more financially feasible. Not necessarily financially feasible, but as has been mentioned, a couple of years back, the price of solar dropped about 90%. The efficiency of the panels doubled, right? That's just technology for you. When I was a kid, we still had a phone attached to the wall. Now we carry it around in my pocket. Granted, it doesn't work half the time. The phone on the wall worked every time. That's not the point. So in my market, and this is kind of what we do, is we go cost of doing nothing and kind of break it down from there, right? In my market, the average household, single-family home, over the next 25 years is going to spend $50,000 in electricity. That comes from the cost of electricity today and the rate of inflation. Honestly, we're pretty good around here about both. Our cost of electricity per kilowatt hour from utility companies is not bad, right? The rate of inflation nationally is like 5.5% per year on utilities. Around here, we stick to around 3 to 4% typically, all right? But still, every single year, that thing goes up. And how long is your contract with the utility company? Until you die. There is no contract. It goes forever, right? So what we do is we come in and we're proposing an alternative, which is solar. The average solar array for a single family home, 10 kilowatts, costs $30,000. So over the course of 25 years, which is the warranted life of one of these systems, it's saving you $20,000. That's before subsidies. That's before tax credits on solar. There's $20 billion that the United States spent last year on fossil fuel subsidies. So what they're going to charge you 50 grand subsidized. We're going to charge you 30 grand without subsidies. And then we can get into what the tax credits are and what they do. So first of all, here in the state of Iowa, well, everywhere across the country, there's a 30% federal tax credit on solar. 30%. Everybody just gets that. There's no paperwork to fill out. You just get to take, it's like an investment tax credit. Boom, you had how much tax liability? Now you have less tax liability. So it works in that way. All right? It's not bad. Here in the state of Iowa, we've passed a complementary state tax credit. It was 15%. They ran out of money this year because people are gobbling this stuff up. So now it's at 13%. Right? So 43% of the cost of an array, you just shave that off. And where do the subsidies go for the big industries, for fossil fuels, for coal, for oil, for all that stuff? Where do they go? To the oil companies. They go to the big gas. They go to the big coal. They go to, how many of you guys know like an oil baron? Nobody? You know your neighbor though, don't you? See, that 30% federal tax credit, that 13% state tax credit, that goes to us. That puts money back in our pockets. All right, that takes money off of our taxes. That's helping the everyday person. And that's why we feel like these things are really crucial, because they're leveling the playing field. Right? Even without them, solar is going to cost you less. And even if you finance it, we can do financing now, where with the subsidies included, your finance payments are lower than your utility bill. No money out of pocket. You don't have to spend a thing. Just now you're paying $10 less a month. Next year, when inflation kicks in, you're paying $15 less a month. Next year, $20 less a month. It's evening the playing field. And kind of looking into the future is where we get really, really interested with this stuff. Because aside from things like added home value, which we can talk about, for every dollar of energy that your solar saves you, it adds $20 to the value, to the resale value of your house. Solar houses tend to sell 20% faster because it's like a pool. If somebody wants it, they know they want it, they're going to find you for it, they're going to pay a premium for it, right? So we see a typical average return of investment on our solar arrays of about 400%, which is crazy. Finding something in the stock market that's going to do that for you, no risk, I'll wait. And when we look into the future, the solar and storage aspect is where this really comes into play. Even right now, Moxie's a certified Tesla Powerwall installer. If you installed a 10K solar, well, that'd be 7.6. A 7.6K solar array, kilowatt solar array, with a battery storage system, so that you never lose power, that battery system, when coupled with the solar, falls under the purview of the federal tax credit. So now we're subsidizing the solar, we're subsidizing the storage, we're giving you true energy independence, away from the every single month there's a bill coming. Every single, year the rate goes up. It's financial and energy freedom that we're trying to give to people, and subsidies help make it work. It's not the only thing, but it's a big part of it. Now what's happening is next year, that federal tax credit drops from 30 to 26%. Year after that, it drops again. Year after that, it drops again, and it goes away. All right? Unless something crazy happens in Washington, currently is the best environment that we are ever going to see again for solar subsidies. Something may happen in 2020. Something may kick that back up. They may redo the whole system. Great, love it, I'm in. But I'm in either way, because this is the way to go, whether it's subsidized or not.
You take the credits the first year?
You take them all in the first year. You don't have to, you got 10 years to use them. So if you don't have $10,000 of tax liability, you can spread that out. But the fact that you can take them all in 1 year, the fact that you have the freedom to not only use your energy how you want, you have the freedom to use your tax credits however you want. It's a big deal. It's the reason that guys like us do what we do. Not because, it's not necessarily even a green thing. Like, I'm sure they care about the environment, we care about the environment, but what I care more about is the fact that me and my neighbor are saving money. Money that can go to, I got 3 kids under 6. The college saving has begun. Yeah, you think the rate of inflation on utilities is going up, the rate of inflation on college tuition is going up way faster. All right, so for everyday people, not the oil barons, not the billionaires somewhere else, not some rich guy in his castle in Omaha. All right, for the people in this room, we're able to make a real, lasting impact. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, our next speaker is going to be Paul Burback, and he's from Muscatine Power and Water.
All right, thank you. Give me a second here to power this bad boy up. While this powers up, I am okay. So I am Paul Burback. I'm Energy Services Advisor for Muscatine Power and Water. I deal with our rebates, things of that nature. Work with customers to reduce their energy consumption, residential and commercial. So I also deal with our cogeneration or our customer-owned generation people, somebody that's interested in putting solar on their home, whether it is a 3 or a 50 kW system. What we do is we try to look at any decisions that we make. We look at our core values, we look at our mission statement. How can we help our customers? One, how can we provide reliable power efficiently? And safety is always a big one. So all of our decisions really do focus around these two items. Customer-owned generation, there's different ways that utilities handle these. We do net meter. That is something that I briefly talked with Lynn about. He lives in Wilton area. Theirs is a little different than our program. We net meter in a way that if you overproduce with your system, let's say in May when air conditioning is not being used, the sun's shining bright, your system is producing. If you overproduce in May, we'll carry that energy over into June. Same thing overproduce in June, we'll carry it over into July. So we do that every month up until, as Carrie mentioned, in February, when your billing statement would normally be due, that is when we're going to true that up. So if in February you have excess generation, we are going to cash that out, is a term that you might hear. We're going to true it up, start at zero. We credit that amount of energy at our avoided cost, and that avoided cost is around just under 3 cents a kilowatt hour. That is a 3-year average of what we can buy power out of the MISO market for. So that's how that avoided cost is calculated. There are certain things that we want you to do to make sure that this system is safe. So we have a interconnection agreement that we need you to fill out. It's going to ask for the equipment that you're going to install, the size of the system, where you're planning to put this. I think who the solar company is, who the electricians are, people that are going to work on this. You submit that interconnection agreement to us. We do charge, or we do have a $100 application fee, and that helps cover some of the costs of our engineering staff that just wants to do the engineering studies. We want to make sure that the system you put up isn't going to cause any voltage issues. The transformers or the system that we have in that neighborhood is sized appropriately. We don't want to cause any of your neighbors' issues, and we just want to make sure that the system is sized appropriately for what we have there. That doesn't mean that you can't put a larger system in, but if we have to upsize the transformer, that may be at an additional cost. And then we do have different rates for our net metering customers, and I'll get into that a little bit later. A traditional customer, our monthly facility charge is around $18.26, I think. The facility charge for a net metered customer is $28.14, I think. So a little bit different. And I think most importantly, what we're looking for is just reach out to us right away so we can get everything in place on our end, get those engineering studies done. We want to make sure that that system is, again, safe and not going to cause any issues with other customers. Here's our current and proposed rate structure that, if you look, 2018 facility charge for a residential customer is $18.28. Our energy charge is 9.263 cents per kilowatt hour. If you move down to the bottom, the net metering residential customer is going to pay the same electric rate. They just pay a slightly higher $10 a month facility charge. Then as you move to the right, you'll see how we are looking at moving into the future. In 2019, we're going to have a slight increase in our facilities charge, slight increase in the energy charge. But as you look down at what a net metering customer is going to pay, they are going to pay a slightly less electric rate for the kilowatt hours that they consume, and that is because that facility charge is set to meet fixed costs that every customer that is tied to Muscatine Power and Water System contributes to or needs to pay for all the amenities that we provide. And then into 2020, same thing, just showing that where we're going to be in a year. This is our commercial rate, so if there's any commercial customers, kind of the same principle. There's a facility charge that's larger than what your typical commercial customer would experience, and those are to help offset some of those fixed costs. When a customer put solar on their home, we are going to install a different meter. It's a bi-directional meter. That means that when you're producing energy and not consuming as much as you're producing, it's going to spin one direction. If you are not producing and you're consuming energy, think of the nighttime, that meter is going to spin the other direction, and it accumulates one way or the other. So it either shows a net production or a net usage. Here is, from our experience, we have 3 solar arrays outside of our AO center. If you're up by Fairway, you'll see those. This is just the last few years of our annual solar generation, and those are roughly 3 kW, a little over 3 kW arrays total. And as you can see, we tend to peak in our production around June, and it makes sense. I think solar arrays do lose some efficiency when it gets hotter, and at least ours have. That's been our experience. So as you can see, a nice little curve that shows that in June we peak in production. This is a typical residential customer. Again, about 5 years worth of data shows that traditional customer is going to use less electricity in the wintertime, in the spring, in the fall when we're not heating or cooling, and then we peak again in the summer. Our peak demand, generally for residential, is in July. So that just, I think that's pretty common. And then this kind of boils down our solar arrays out front. This is on our website. You can go there and you can get hourly data off of this system to see kind of what our system is doing. Maybe it will give you an indication of what a system on your house or business might do. As you can see that this was taken March 19th, so about the equinox, so we had about the same amount of daylight as nighttime. We started generating right around the 7 a.m. time frame. We peaked around noon, and then it slowly starts to go down, I guess, around the 6 p.m. time frame. In the summer, we're going to get a little bit longer production just because the sun's going to be a little higher in the sky. It's going to be a little bit longer, I guess, 12 longer days. So it kind of spreads out that hump. One of the things that we know from the data that we collect or that we have access to is that residential customers peak at different times than the solar. And so this is East Central Iowa REC. If anyone else has REC, you know that there's a different rate structure than what we have. That rate structure is designed to try and encourage us not to use electricity at the most common time to use energy. So we think, kind of looking at our solar at the noon time when the sun is highest, maybe it's the hottest time of day, but what we see and what we see with other utilities is it's between that 4 and 9 p.m. that residential customers are getting home from work. They're starting up the stove, they're turning on the TV, the lights, those types of things. So, so that peak demand for the residential customer happens between 4 and 9. I happen to live in the REC territory. I pay 16 cents a kilowatt hour if I use energy between these times. I pay about 8 cents if I use it on off-peak, and that is to encourage me to use it, do my laundry at 9 o'clock, or dry my clothes, whenever, just not during the most popular time. And I think ECI noted that 45% of their wholesale costs occur between these 5 hours. So almost half of what they pay for energy occurs in this peak time. So 2015, we looked at a community solar garden. We got a team together. We looked at different sizes. We looked at a 500 kW system. We looked at a 1,000 kW system, or a 1 megawatt. And we looked at a 1.5 megawatt system. And the reason being, we know that the more solar that the larger this community solar garden was, the less cost per watt we were going to get. So that the economies of scale were beneficial for us to install a larger system, help keep some of those costs down maybe for customers that wanted to participate. We structured this model for customers who wanted to participate in a community solar garden. We didn't want to build one and then burden other customers that maybe didn't want solar or maybe just couldn't afford it. If they're on a fixed income, maybe they're low income. So we really structured it to get people who wanted this type of energy to participate. We thought a community solar garden is simplified. It allows us to put it in an optimal location. We had identified a couple of well fields that we can't do much with just because of, obviously, we don't want to contaminate the water. So we can't have livestock, we can't have buildings on it. A solar garden looked like a pretty good, that seemed like a really good location for a community solar garden. So again, we would maintain it, less for a customer to worry about. We know there's a lot of homes that can't put solar on their houses. Maybe it's trees, maybe it's the orientation, the size of their home. There's lots of factors. Maybe they rent. So our interest was a little disappointing. We thought we would get a little more activity. We had 85 residential customers that reached out to us with either they wanted to go big, they wanted to start small, or they just wanted more information. Those were kind of the three things that we were trying to gather from all of our outreach. And then we got 85 residential, and we had one business customer that had a little interest, but was still more of wanted more information. So we had approximately 100 kW of interest. That was a number we really just, we looked at who wanted to go big, who wanted a little, and who wanted information. So that 100 kW is just kind of a rough number. And again, we were trying to get to a minimum of 500 kW. We thought if we got 80% subscribed, we would move forward, thinking that once the ball started rolling, we would maybe get more people to participate and fill up that remaining 20%. I know this isn't solar, and I know we're talking wind, but we have invested in a wind farm in southwest Minnesota. It's a 13 megawatt system. It is in our MISO footprint, so I'll talk a little bit about that, but that is our generation. It's renewable energy, and if customers, again, maybe can't participate in solar, don't want to participate in solar, but still want to show their interest in renewables, we have a program out right now where those the energy that's produced by our wind farm produces renewable energy certificates. Those RECs are tradable, and you can buy them. Those are yours to own. If you buy those, we have window clings that we're going to send you. Put them on your window, put them on your car, get the word out there, spark up some conversation. And we'll send a certificate and something that you can show that you are being proactive and participating in an option. So this is our MISO market. I know it doesn't mean a lot to most of us here, but all of the energy that we use in Muscatine or that we were to produce goes into this footprint. And as you can see, it's most of just the Midwest. It does extend into Canada, but this is the United States' portion. The green section that you see, which is Iowa, there is just a sliver in southwest and south central Minnesota.
and then it does clip off the northeast corner of Iowa. But that LRZ3, which is Local Resource Zone 3, which is what we are in, this pie chart shows that actually 41% of the energy produced in our load zone, load resource zone, is wind. So there is a lot of renewable energy that is in our footprint within the MISO footprint. And I only want to talk briefly about energy efficiency because the businesses, the customers that participate in our energy efficiency program, if you look in the center column, over the last 4 years, it's about 25 million kilowatt hours that have been saved through lighting, motors, air conditioners. If we break that into a traditional, a typical home, which consumes just under 11,000 kilowatt hours a year, we're taking about 2,400 homes off the system or off the grid just through energy efficiency alone. So that's about 25% of our residential customers. So that's a pretty cool story. So energy efficiency does make a big difference. To get to why our facility charge is a little higher, there are fixed costs that every customer uses. So even if I have solar on my home, I'm not always using it at the same time that it's being produced. So unless I do have a battery, I am needing that energy that comes from the grid. So the transformers, the poles, the wires, the linemen, or the line personnel who are out there in the storms repairing those are all costs that even if we have solar, there are still going to be times when you're going to need the reliable power from the grid. And so some of those fixed costs, traditionally or in the past, those rates in the kilowatt hours has covered some of these fixed costs. Excuse me. So when we look at a renewable customer that is no longer using as many or any kilowatt hours, we still need to make sure that some of these fixed costs are getting covered. And that's why that rate is different. And that is part of that bill that we're hearing. And so there are costs.
You want to go back?
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Did I skip forward?
Yeah.
Sorry, that made more sense. Okay. So, some of the things that we don't always think about, I mean, obviously the poles, the transformers, the linemen, we think about, we get, but some of the amenities that we contribute that don't get charged to us individually are things like our street lights, our traffic signals, the string of pearls, the lights at the ballpark, the lights at the soccer complex, the hydrants, the fire hydrants, the water. So these are all things that we use that are a part of our kilowatt hour rate, or had been traditionally. And as we start moving away from using kilowatt hours and generating our own, we have to get some of those fixed costs to pay for some of this. Yes, I am. Okay, sorry. Okay, yes. I think that's it. We do have excess generating capacity, so it's hard for us to justify more putting in solar unless there is community interest. So we have plenty of capacity. So that's part of our that's paid, that's bought and paid for. So all right, I will stop.
Thank you. Now we wanted to open it up for questions, and you can ask questions of anybody on the panel or a specific one. The only thing is we ask that you come up here to the podium to ask your questions, because they're filming it for Access TV. And it's actually going to be on YouTube tonight, and it's going to be on Access TV within the next few days. So, for any questions, please come up here to the podium, and we'll have the microphone there for you to ask questions. I think we've had a really interesting panel, and I hope there'll be a lot of good questions.
We did a great job of just answering all of the questions.
Well, I'm last one.
Oh, good. Good start.
to get solar, we need community support. What do you want? You want people that would like to put it in, you would like to petition, you would like us to just talk to you and Erica all the time? How could we show what we have that would make an impression to you?
You want me to go over there and answer, or is there, am I loud enough? Is that loud?
He's got a mic.
Does that work? All right. So, yeah, I guess, you know, we reached out to customers in as many ways as we could think. We had our customer appreciation. We had over 1,200 customers come through that door. We had a booth that talked about this community solar garden. We had a newsletter that went out. It was a 3/4 of a page. And in that newsletter that went to everybody, you get a paper copy. You could either fill that out and mail it in, or there was a link that you could go to and you could fill it out online. So we tried to make it easy that way. We had Facebook posts. We had radio. We had it on our TV. I'm trying to think. We did. I mean, we tried every which means. We had posters in our lobby. We had flyers. So I think the best thing is you can still sign up to show interest, and if we keep getting interest, we're going to revisit this. We haven't stopped. We've just tabled it for the time being, again, because of the interest that we were seeing when we started. And so if interest starts to come back, or there's more interest, we'll definitely revisit. We have no problem with doing that. So, did I answer the
Yeah,
question?
thank
Okay.
you for all the lighting you do for the community and how you help with trails and everything.
Yeah, well, no, it's all part of, you know, what the utility provides, and so we all benefit economically from that, our property values, and it's a great place to live.
Gosh, I'm first in line. I have a question probably for Carrie. You briefly showed a chart which showed the fall off of efficiency of the solar panels over time. Could you show that again? If you find it, if it's too much, not too much bother. What I'm asking specifically is, say if you decide you need a 10 kilowatt system, at what point do you no longer get 10 kilowatts?
You know, right now panels, and some of our panel is rated to be at 97% efficiency or better for the first 3 to 5 years. And then it drops off at about 0.6% efficiency per year after that over the life of the panel. So, I mean, long story short, you know, you should see full production for that first 5 years, plus or minus. Lynn says he's getting the same production for 7 years. You know, it's going to be hard to tell, because some years you're going to get more sun, some years you're going to get more cloud. So it's really hard to tell exactly what happened.
Now, the reason I ask this is because every year the local ham club used to borrow a solar system from the University of Iowa, and about the 6th, 7th year it no longer worked. It was almost totally dead. The other question I've got is, for both of the vendors here, do you use distributed inverters on each panel, or do you use one large master inverter for the entire system?
I can do either way. We can
Okay.
do micro inverters, or I can do string inverters.
All right. Do you have any kind of a guarantee or idea about how much radio frequency interference your inverters generate? He's smiling over there. He must have had this problem.
No, not at all. That's
Not at all?
And then-
Yeah, so I think we go through SolarEdge, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll do either microinverters on a really small system, or DC optimized through like the larger system through centralized inverter. And to our knowledge, we have never just received or generated radio frequency. All the reporting goes through wireless internet. So it's all Wi-Fi generated. It's not like a radio generated signal.
See, these things generate wideband hash, broadband interference. And it's suddenly become a big issue. One of my hobbies is amateur radio. When your neighbors put in a solar array, all of a sudden your radios don't work anymore because all you're getting is hash from their inverters. and then you have a big fight with the neighbor, the solar company to eliminate the hash.
Do you know what type of inverter they're using?
They've had problems with both. The distributed ones where they use the little micro inverters on each panel have been pretty much found to be the worst.
Yeah, we try to stay away from microinverters. Do you have a brand?
No, they're kind of, the article's been published, they're kind of cagey about that, not wanting to start lawsuits.
I know, she's pointing, shut up, David.
My plan is forming.
I do want to address real quick, there is a lot of, it's not just, you know, the installer goes up, you can buy panels from Walmart, and granted, those like tier 5 panels are a huge fire hazard. There's a big difference, it's just like anything, like buying a clunker car versus something rated off a lot versus a Honda versus Chevy, right? There are certain quality standards based on your panels and your inverters. And so if you know, we talk about like the cost of something over time. If you want to skimp on your panels, you want to skimp on your inverters, you want to do something because it's cheap and easy, not because you're doing it the right way, you're pay for that down the line somewhere, right? That's just anything in life. So we've never had anyone complain about radio interference with our panels or fights with their neighbor. But it's certainly possible. I'd be interested to see what sort of inverter they're using.
I'd like to just address that reliability issue there too. The original panels I installed, I had them for 7 years and there was like no decrease at all in the 7 years I had them. And those panels were guaranteed to be making 90% of their rated capacity after 25 years. So I don't know what you were looking at that didn't work after 7 or 6 or 7, but it's not my experience at all.
The students made those panels? Pardon? Did the students make the panels?
No, it was something that was built by the University Engineering Department.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it is. Wrong in my mistake. I hate to say that as well. I think their engineering department's a little better than ours.
My name is Paul Fielding, Muscatine resident. I'd like to know if any of you have any insights and information for us regarding the current legislation that's going through the Iowa legislature. What does it do to the solar industry? What does it do for the power companies? And what is going to happen with it?
We'll start now.
It doesn't matter.
Are we allowed to swear on this recording? No, the legislation is very blatantly and obviously designed to kill private generation in the state of Iowa. Whether it does that or not is entirely for private citizens. It does make it it's designed to make it much more difficult and less cost effective to install solar, to effectively monopolize the sun on behalf of large scale utilities. Now granted, in 5 years when battery technology catches up to solar technology and the grid becomes obsolete, there's nothing to do. But I'm sure they'll come up with some sort of legislation at that point for that as well.
Anybody challenge that?
Well, I showed, some things that our community provides to our community, that our utility provides to the community that needs, there's those fixed costs, and if somebody's not using kilowatt hours, if I'm a customer and I'm only paying $28, for my facilities charge, or excuse me, $18 for my facility charge, somebody else is offsetting those costs for the streets, for the traffic signals, all the other things that we mentioned. So the reason that some of those, that legislature is trying to allow utilities to move in the direction that we are able to do is for the same reason. Those fixed costs aren't always in that facility charge. And part of the reason for that is, if I was using my grandmother as an example, she uses less energy. I need to have her pay the same facility charge if we were just to go off of fixed costs. So if I use more energy than somebody that uses a little bit, there's more wear and tear on the system. I'm using it more, I should pay more. So the fact that some of those fixed charge wouldn't be paid for if there was no kilowatt hour usage, that's why the facility charge is cheap.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with the way that you guys do facility charges, because you add a little bit more of something net metering. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think the elimination of net metering is a huge mistake and an obvious blow to the consumer, and that's kind of where the monopolization of solar power comes in. Yeah, the increase in facility charges, like the way you guys do it,
facility charge went from, I think it was $29 a month, we're now paying $59 a month, for our facility fee. And we're generating all our own power. So, I look at that $30 additional facility charge as, I can't buy battery. I can't store that power by myself with battery rates today. So, I'm using power and water facility to store that power. I put the power on the grid and I bring it back. So, to a certain extent, I agree with some of the legislation. But like Julian said, the net metering changes that they've talked about. I personally think net metering needs to be kept the same across the state. Today, Power and Water has net meter annually, which means that every excess kilowatt that I generate through the year keeps building from month to month to month until, like I said, I turn on my big irrigator and I use 8,000 kilowatts that month, then I get that power back. If I was on REC, they net meter monthly. So what I over-generate this month, they pay me for at the end of the month. I cannot carry that forward. So I think there needs to be, across the state, there needs to be some equalization amongst utilities, that everybody works at the same program and works the same way.
There's one issue with this law that irritates me, that the commercial that's been on TV, we've probably all seen it. Not one time do you ever hear these people say, well, those older people, they gotta pay their fair share of the grid. But they never say that when that power gets really expensive, at peak intervals, most of you ever paid for power.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, a bunch.
Oh,
when
and
you really get to the peak, no, not your house, for the city.
Oh,
When you get to that peak demand, I mean, it gets really expensive. As a generator, I'm generating power that's going into the grid, and they never say anything about, well, we'll credit you at the same rate that it's like, no, we'll give you that 2.7 cents kilowatt hour when it costs us $1.25 or whatever, So that I find really annoying that they don't do that. It's obviously that commercial's been on TV, some speculation that was paid for by Alliant and America.
But then it's always followed by that Mid-America. We like renewable power.
So they're more to the picture than what they'll bring up.
This is the ballot tax bill, the net metering bill, which, we think is a bad bill. So I'm gonna pass this around, what they're talking about,
And I've got a few copies I printed off today, and under any of a recap that was sent to us from the Iowa Solar Association today. So if anybody's interested, you can pick that up later.
Yes.
I only have about 22, so if there are a couple of you, only take like one. I didn't print out.
Having looked at the bill, I agree that the bill is for the utility companies, not for the customers. But my question is, I'm Tom Furlong, and I'm actually on Eastern REC. My question is for Mr. Schaefer, and having lived in Sedalia, Missouri, and seen the strong adaptation there, and not very much in Muscatine, what do you see the differences between Sedalia, Muscatine, Eastern Iowa, Wilton, compared to Sedalia, why people jumped on board down there?
Well, at the time, at the beginning of 2010, Missouri passed a law that the publicly traded utility companies, which is Kansas City Power and Light, Ameren out of St. Louis, and the one down in southwest Missouri, Empire, I think is their name, that they had to contribute $2 per watt to anybody who would install up to a 25 kilowatt system on their home or business. So they shared a lot of the cost. However, it was projected and has happened that the price would fall dramatically. Those power companies had to put in, I think it was $50 million, which sounds like money to their big companies. When they reached that $50 million, the $2 a watt rebate went away. And unfortunately, so did a lot of the interest in the solar. Even though the price, as I said, my 7 kilowatt system in Wilton costs 60% as much as my 5 kilowatt system in Sedalia. I mean, it's just, so I didn't even need the $2 a watt, and I still got better people.
So is your payback today is good or better than it was in today?
It's hard to say, because that metering down there doesn't do that metering. So, probably not. Probably not payback. But I guess the quick answer is what we need, and that probably irritates a lot of people, but we need some sort of government action to encourage this sort of stuff. I mean, everybody's sitting around saying, yeah, there's climate change, and obviously it's happening. We all see it now. You know, I don't know why everybody in Florida doesn't support it, because they're not being there. That's up to them, I guess. But at any rate, if we get some sort of action supporting it, then I think you would see more action on the part of the people.
You had a comment?
Yeah, I had a comment. You know, in this packet that I got today, I mean, it shows a map of the state of Iowa. There's solar power in every county in Iowa today. What you see is the brighter color blues is where there's higher concentrations. Around us, it's Washington, Henry, Lee, Keokuk counties. What we're seeing is where there's been strong solar dealers, there is strong presence of solar in those communities.
I don't understand why businesses don't all have solar. I mean, it's really a solid investment. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, but it's a good investment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Osborne over here in Muscatine, Iowa. I got a little lost in the net metering, the way Muscatine Power Water does net metering. I know that you accumulate it, all zeros on there. However, is it a one-for-one match, or
Through the year?
If I generate 1,000 kilowatts at the end of the year, I get paid the 0.8 cents per kilowatt hour then?
Throughout the year, so basically that meter is just gonna spin, and when we read it, you know, we don't know how much energy your system produced, we don't know how much you used. We just know that collectively, let's say you used 400 kilowatt hours, maybe you used 1,000, but your system produced 600, I don't know. So in that case, you would pay that 400 kilowatt hours. In a May, say you're using less energy, you produce 600 kilowatt hours, but you didn't use that much. If you don't use it all, we're gonna carry it over, or it's gonna get carried over into June, and so on. So at the end of February, we're gonna cash it out we're gonna true it up at the avoided cost. And that avoided cost is what we can, so that's that 3-year average that we can buy energy out of the market for.
It is a one-for-one exchange. For every kilowatt that you produce and put onto the grid, when you need it, you get that kilowatt back.
Got that. Understood all that the first time. I think you said it was 3 cents a kilowatt hour for avoidance. So I pay in 8 cents when I use it, but I'm only getting credit back for 3 cents. Is that correct? It's not one-for-one dollars.
Not at the end, not in February.
Okay.
Well,
Over the course of the year, yes.
Yeah, he's just talking when they settle the books in February, the end of February.
Right.
Then if you put in a big enough system that you produce more electricity than you used, all
I got that.
Okay.
And the reason
the reason I ask is that's different in the ways across Iowa. Net metering means if I'm paying 0.08 cents a kilowatt hour, then I'm going to get credit for 0.08 cents per kilowatt hour.
No.
What I'm saying is I'm going to get
But look, if
3 cents a kilowatt hour.
you use 10,000 kilowatt hours and you generated 11,000 kilowatt hours. The 1,000 that you have excess is what you make the 3 cents for. The 10,000 you use, you don't pay anything for.
you got full credit.
I understand. I understand that.
And the reason that there's that 3 cents, so I think this is where the confusion is, that avoided cost, we can buy it out of the market, but part of our fixed costs are not only in that facilities charge, but some of it is also in that kilowatt hour. So the additional 5 cents roughly is for variable costs. It might be fluctuations in what we buy energy for. I don't really know what all the variables are.
I got you.
But so it's kind of like saying we have a choice. We can buy energy from you that you generated, or we can buy it out of the market for 3 cents. So at that point in time, we're gonna pay you what we could buy it somewhere else.
Yeah, I got you, okay.
And the net metering agreements, most all the net metering agreements read that you can build a system up to 100% of your usage. So when we don't design a system that's gonna produce 150% of your power because we know 3% return is not a good return.
That's really on your installer to figure out over the course of 12 months how much you use and marry that up. Because we don't want to exacerbate your payback, we just want you not to know.
And I know you don't have a crystal ball, but just real quick question on the Iowa legislation that's happening. Everybody knows about it. Different things being said about it. You're charging about, the solar customers right now was about $30 a month, a little less than that.
28, yeah.
So about $360 a month. Mid-America and Ameren and all the big boys, they estimate that it's gonna be about $360 a year is what they're looking for, so that's about what you're charging. Do you see it changing if do you see Muscatine Power and Waters changing if the law changes or gets adopted?
I don't, Erica is with Muscatine Power and Water, she might be able to answer that for us.
Hi, I'm Erica Cox for Muscatine Power and Water, and how we determine our rates is on a cost to serve a customer class. So I think whatever the legislation does, that's not going to change locally our cost to serve our
Yeah, it
customers.
seems to me like you guys are already kind of doing what the law is asking others to do across the state of Iowa. So it seemed to me that we would not change, but I just wanted to ask that question. Thank you.
Jean Clark, and my question is sort of related, and I think it's phenomenal that MPW will wait a year to equal it out, because if you have to do it every month or every quarter, that's really hard and isn't very cost effective for the solar producer. But I guess my question then has been, if the new legislation goes into effect, would MPW look at not doing it for a year, but going back to net metering in a smaller increment, like monthly or quarterly or something like that? Because it's really a benefit for solar customers.
So I think that that's not something that I would take off the table. I would say that it's not anything that's on the horizon immediately. I think what we always do is we look at, what are other utilities doing. We try to stay as much as we can contemporary with what other folks are doing, but also recognizing that we're a community utility, right? We're here to benefit the community, our business customers, our residential customers. So those types of things do go into consideration when we're making impacts to our rate design.
Muscatine Power and Water does a great job. Mid-American and Alliant in the state of Iowa, on their true-up period, they have net metering annually, but on their true-up period, you're only going to get half of that money at the end of the year. The other half goes into a fund for the low-income energy assistance program. So instead of 3 cents kilowatt, you're only getting a penny and a half for your excess production. On the Illinois side, it's use it or lose it. On the Illinois side, they do not pay anything for the excess generation. So right now, we've got a good deal.
Hi, I'm Spencer Arke. I'm a resident here in Muscatine. I was wondering if there's been any interest from the city in offsetting their own municipal costs, government buildings, schools, or even the library that we're in right now.
Yeah, so all of the city costs, so street lights, that's all part of, Muscatine Power.
Putting panels on this roof.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if a library would be, that doesn't fall into our free book like the city, I don't know what's in the library. I guess I don't know how the library falls in. But again, we have excess generating capacity, it would cost our community more for us to install additional generation. So, we
But I was saying, we're going to offset the cost.
The problem with public facilities, they do not get tax credits. They don't get a federal tax credit, they don't get state tax credit. So out of that $30,000 investment that Julian talked about earlier, the city has to bear that full $30,000 because I'm not going to cut my rates in half. My family still wants to eat, whereas you or you guys out there, you get the advantage of the tax credit. That $30,000 investment all of a sudden becomes about $20,000 20 houses out that you're offsetting, so.
Now, there are formats for churches, nonprofits, municipalities to utilize solar on public facilities without the city actually having to come out of pocket. Typically, it's a lease or what's called a power purchase agreement. We do need large investors, multi-million-dollar investors typically for that sort of thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like, there's no way we can get the city to invest in this.
Oh, you could. I'm not sure how you could.
That's my question.
Again, schools don't get the clearance, but they can do PPA, they can do a power purchase agreement. Yeah, I'm working with a school up in Woodbury right now that's looking at parking structure. But, I mean, what they're doing with the PPA is you're locking your utility rate in at X dollars for the next 20 years. So you're hedging against inflation, you're hedging against higher energy costs. So you're saving money, but you're not saving money.
Hi, my name is Karen Cooney, and I'm a homeowner, and of course my home is an older home. And so I guess I'm hearing you tonight, and I heard, of course, you built a new home, so that makes sense, definitely, to take and put a solar panel on. But when you're talking about the age of most of the homes that are around Muscatine, you're talking, some that are getting up to 75, even 100 years old and such. So we're not really part of the customer then. Is that what you're saying? That what, can be done with? Or is it just more the new homeowners that are looking to do this?
It's every home, but the 99% of our business is retrofits. It really comes down to how old is your electrical service and how old is your roof. We're not going to put anything on a rooftop. No solar installer worth their salt will without a structural engineering stamp. So we're going to make sure your roof can handle it, and we're going to make sure that your electrical equipment can handle it. We're a licensed electrical contractor at Monty, so if we come in and we see that your electrical is not up to code, we'll bring it up to code, which most of the time is a good thing because if it's not up to code, it's probably like a fire accident or something. And then any electrical work that is done as part of the project falls into that 30% federal tax credit. So it's one of those things where, how old is the house, how old is the roof, how old is the electrical? Most of the time, those things are not really factors because they're things that we can work through. If you've got a 1,000-year-old oak tree in the front yard that, you're so tied to emotionally, like somebody's initial carved into it or something, you're never cutting it down, and it shakes your whole roof, that's something that we can't work with. But for the most part, the age of the house doesn't.
Well, to relate with that is because one of the things earlier said is how many people in Muscatine have really thought about it. I do remember getting information on it, but my first thought was, why would I need to do it on my level? You know what I'm saying? And so I think it may be a little bit different education perhaps or something so that some of this information is easier for folks to understand that it can be more simple than what the complicated part of everything is with this.
You do have the option of, if you don't have a good roof, or a good place to put it on the roof, there is the option of ground mounting solar panels too. I mean, if you have a big backyard that you could face to the south and it doesn't have any trees, then
Would my dog make a difference on that?
We put solar arrays up in enclosures for llamas and alpacas and stuff. We're gonna chicken farm, so the chickens. I mean, a lot of people are just like, give your dog a place to lie down on a hot day.
Yeah. So, Jim, I was one of the 85 that called on the Muscatine Power Water, and I don't think we said enough about that. I'd like to kind of plant a seed and maybe you could go into the details. The way I understood it was, you buy into it, and for somebody that doesn't have $10,000, $30,000 to spend on a home unit, you can pick your number, $1,000, and then that was pretty much given back as credit over your bill for a period of time. Could you tell us some more details about that? I think for folks that got older homes like I do, maybe you don't have the real estate, maybe you don't have $30,000, $20,000 laying around. I think the Muscatine Power Water option. Could you tell us a little bit about
So, yeah, and again, but, you know, we'd probably reevaluate what a system, if it's a 500 kW or 1 megawatt or 1.5, what the total cost to put that system in, and calculate the number of customers that were interested, and try to come up with a cost based on that per share, for a share. Hard to say. I don't remember now what those numbers were. It was maybe a year ago that we probably looked at it. But again, it was designed to not put any cost on customers that couldn't afford it or were on fixed incomes, didn't want it, that sort of thing. So I don't know the exact numbers.
If I remember right, I don't quite remember exactly what the numbers were either, but I think if you got the interest that you thought you might, which was about 80% of the population, it was like $35 a share, and you could buy 100 shares if you wanted to, and I thought that was an appealing part of it, if you don't have that kind of money laying around, and if you're worried about a small yard, you're worried about who's going to take the installation, it's definitely something, it's a different option, and I appreciate you guys for coming up with that, it's a pretty good solution.
If I could add something to that, Jeff, to your point, and I think what you guys talked about earlier, is, you know, when we looked at that community solar option, we were going to do the power production agreement that these guys talked about, because as a municipal utility, we don't get those tax credits. And to their points about the tax credits starting to phase down and out, you know, some kind of the essence, if there was to be some local interest in a community solar, that to get the most advantage that we could out of the tax credits that are available, I think December of 19 was when maybe the first phase starts going out, and it's been a while, but if I remember correctly, I think it was like about $350, $360 a share, and to, you know, Karen's point and to Jeff's point, if you have an older home, if you have a shaded home, if you rent and you don't have the ability or you can't come up with the upfront cost that it might cost to do a solar install on your home, those were all of the things that we thought would generate interest in that community solar garden. And like Paul said, we've got land down on Grandview Avenue where our water well fields are that would be the perfect location for us to put a large-scale installation. But because we do have excess generating capacity with our bought and paid for generating units down in the south end, right now, you know, we do need to have that community interest to take that next step to do the solar installation. So we still have a link on our website where you can indicate that you do have interest. Paul's number's blasted all over our website. You can contact him. Contact anybody at Power and Water. We can get you in touch with the right person so that if you are interested, we can get that noted, and if we can get enough interest going, it is something that we can take a look at. And as these guys said, you know, costs have gone down. We expect that that's going to continue to happen. So, you know, hopefully make that solar installation costs or acquisition costs be more competitive for us.
What's your fuel source on your generator?
Coal.
So maybe that's your avenue. We're not talking about just adding solar, we're talking replacing coal. I mean, you know.
Solar plus storage facility, they have it on tap, or fundamentally, solar plus storage facility, they have it on tap.
No, I'm talking about how many generators you got there.
We have 3 generating units.
Now I'm talking about shutting down one of the generators. Now, that's a big deal, and it takes a long time and all that, but we started this off with talking about climate change. Well, it doesn't do any good. My solar panels don't make any difference in the total amount of CO2 that's in the world. That's all there is to it. I got 7,000 watts. But mine and maybe 2 million others might. Mine and enough others where we shut down a coal plant definitely will make a difference. You know, so that's why I wound up saying, you know, if not me, who, if not now, when? You know, we're just sitting here talking about adding solar panels. When are we going to make a difference? It'll make a difference when you shut down one of the generators. It'll make
How many megawatt hours your generators are providing a year?
We have capacity for about 285.
285 megawatt hours.
It's a big deal.
It's
It
very
takes a while, and I like the fact that the new Green Deal, no, what's it called?
Yeah.
The Green New Deal. I mean, I like the fact that this is now something that's really being talked about, but the goal of no fossil fuel consumption in 10 years is just not possible. It's just not practical. First off, there are probably some people in this room that just bought a brand new car and still plan on driving 10 years from now. You know. So, and I've got a friend that's still putters around on his 4020 John Deere that he bought in 1968. You know, so it's not practical, but at least it's being talked about, and as a nation, we need to have some goals and objectives. I find it really interesting that when President Trump said, I'm going to pull out of the Paris climate deal, that a whole bunch of states and like over 100 major cities in the United States said, we're signing up.
Yeah.
You know, and so, okay.
I mean, there is large-scale solar coming to Iowa, folks. I mean, not too long ago it was announced 800 acres in Walpole, Iowa has been contracted for solar. There's a company going through the Muscatine Island right now trying to lease 2,500 acres for solar. There's another 1,000 acres up in West Liberty that's being contracted for solar. So we're going to be seeing some large-scale solar in our communities pretty soon.
Alliance already got like a 7 megawatt array up near Dubuque. I think Eastern Iowa REC's got like a 5 megawatt array out in Moscow, Iowa.
That's three. That's three.
So it's here.
So I'm not saying I'm worried about this so much, but what do you say to the people who would support them, except for the birds that are dying and the side effects from, you know what I mean?
I'll tell you what you say. There's like a few thousand birds that are killed by the windmills. There are millions of birds killed by automobiles, and more than that by cats. So we're going to get rid of cats. I personally have killed an owl, I think. The natural feathers on my windshield one night, and I assume I killed an owl. You know, and I felt bad about that for 40 years. You know, we're not going to stop driving cars, and this argument on the wind turbines, I refuse to say the wind turbines killing birds is ridiculous. Yes, there are a few that get killed, and I don't like that either.
I think it's about time that we need to wrap this up. We can have more conversation after our formal time has ended. So I want to thank our guest speakers who gave their time this evening. Musser Public Library for the meeting space, Jeremy from the Community College and Local Access for this broadcast, and Muscatine Power and Water for cable access. Tonight's forum will be rebroadcast on Channel 9. And finally, thanks to the League of Women Voters and CLAM members for helping out tonight. So thanks for coming.